doing this. So slide deck is in the chat. We're really excited about this meeting. We're going to focus today on our expanded learning connections. And so we have some great folks here that are going to help facilitate with that with us. We're going to do an overview, share with you some resources, make sure you have time to connect in breakout rooms. Like we always love that. That's like some of our favorite parts of our meetings. And going to talk about some next steps and what our next meetings will be about, and get some feedback from you all, and a closing. The next slide. So hopefully a lot of you were able to partake in some of these. I wanted to share, they're not recorded, but I'm hoping they will be. But California Natural Resources Agency had some really great webinars for Native Heritage Month last month, although it just was yesterday was last day. But wanted to share those resources with you. Those are linked on that image there. And I did attend one of the webinars that was really fantastic, and just talking about, you know, indigenous knowledge and indigenous connections to land. And we always want to acknowledge the land that we're on and whose land we're on. And our County Office of Education, because of it being Native American Heritage Month, they recognized our local indigenous group, the Muwekma Ohlone. And they are not federally recognized right now. They are moving towards that and pushing towards that. But they were, if you could please mute yourself, that would be awesome, or have some help with that, sorry. And they were recognized by our Board of Education, and they actually presented our land acknowledgement earlier this month, which was fantastic. And let's see here. Sorry. Just in the chat, if you could just share the native land that you are on, or you are calling in from, zooming in from. And if you wanted to share also how you've connected to your indigenous organizations in your area, that could be shared in the chat as well. So like I said, we are connecting with our Muwekma Ohlone indigenous folks, and we also have connected, and I know Amity does work with them, the Amamutsun, which are part of Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County. So they're doing a lot of plant and native plant restoration. They're doing a lot of work on protecting certain areas. And then, we also wanted to make sure you all knew about this this article that came out recently, and this millions of dollars that are being put towards some tribes that will reclaim and protect some coastal lands that are threatened by climate change. So the Amamutsun are one of those tribes that are going to be helping, you know, benefiting from that. So it's pretty exciting. And that's linked in the slide deck too. Lots of homework and reading for you all to do. So the objectives here, as we know, and thank you for some of you sharing in the chat. Thank you for, and check the chat for that, please. Our objectives, of course, are sharing our resources and innovative practices, and we're building capacity of County Office of Education as our regional backbone support for the following outcomes. So most of you have been with us for a few times already, so I'm not going to read all of this, but just make sure that that's in mind, of knowing what our objectives are, to work together, supporting districts, providing access to regular environmental and outdoor learning experiences, applying the frameworks that integrate environmental literacy, and infusing sustainability principles. So I just kind of, you know, Cliff Notes versions. And goodness, there's lots of Amy Frames joining us today. Just how to say that. All right, next slide, please. And as you all know, we are part of the broader statewide work that we're doing. So we have the Innovation Hub members are highlighted there in orange, but a lot of you are continuing to join us on our Innovation Hub, and then now you're part of our community of practice. So obviously the goal is to get someone from every county involved, and I think we're getting close. So we're almost at the 58 representatives, which is very exciting. So we're going to do a quick connection with each other. We're going to go into quick breakout rooms just to say hi and reconnect, because it's been about 2 months or a month or so since we've seen each other last. Reintroduce yourself to the person that you're in there with. We're going to have pairs, and to share with each other about your favorite winter tradition. If there's a tradition you have every winter that maybe you take time off from work and go somewhere, or if you see family, or if there's a tradition you all do with your family. I'll just quickly share that my mom has an amazing zucchini bread recipe, and we always make it every year during this time of year, and we eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's really yummy. So anyway, so we're gonna go out to breakout rooms just for about 4 minutes. So just each person take about 2 minutes to chat, and we'll come back in about 4 minutes. Thanks. See you in a little bit. Okay, I don't know if I should go or stay back. I don't know. What do you think?
Just go.
Just go. Okay, I'll be back.
Okay.
Watching the time, right?
I'll stay here.
Bad hands.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice conversation there. Ours was a little bit about tradition and about food. So food is a big piece of all this time of year, right? So, all right, we'll go to the next slide, please. So we're going to talk about today's focus is on expanded learning. So we do have a lot of folks that are here today that work in that space and that are going to be sharing some of the things they do. But just wanted to give you an overview because some of us in the county offices don't necessarily work directly in expanded learning, or we're still learning about expanded learning. So we just want to let you know what the definition is, and that's that expanded learning is before school, after school, summer, or inter-session learning programs that focus on developing the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of students through hands-on engaging learning experiences. And it's the intent of legislature that expanded learning programs are student-centered, results-driven, include community partners, and complement, but do not replicate learning activities in the regular school day and school year. So we wanted to just make sure that we're talking through and having everyone that's here understand what expanded learning is. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more. We also had some questions that came up before today's meeting about what the role the county offices play in expanded learning. And there's some county offices that have a particular, and though some of you are here, that's what you do. That's your work, is working with expanded learning and working with those partners. It does vary from county office to county office. My county office, as large as it is, does not have a designated person that does expanded learning, but we're part of the bigger region of Region 5, and so that's part of what helps us. And we also want to make sure that the expanded learning, and again, those experts that are here can help us with this when we go into our breakout rooms, but the funding and all that usually kind of comes from a district level necessarily, or the districts connect with expanded learning and they run that more than we do at the county office. So again, that's folks that are part of that can explain that a little bit more. And we want to just make sure that what we do as county offices is that we're connecting in network somehow. So if we don't run expanded learning necessarily at a county office, we should be participating in those networks and really learning from those regions and networks that we do work with. So we're going to just start quickly. Just kind of doing what do you call it, accessing prior knowledge, which we do a lot in science and instruction, is we want to just find out from you all in this Jamboard. We're going to link in a second, using frame 1 or 2 of the Jamboard. Share your thinking about expanded learning before we dig in a little bit more. So what do you know about expanded learning? What are you curious about expanded learning? Maybe this is the first time you've heard of it. What are you already doing that connects expanded learning and environmental literacy? So just pick one of those 3 questions in the Jamboard and just put a sticky note on that Jamboard that shows, an answer about what you know or what you're curious about. or what you're already doing. And that's in the notes on the comments, just use frame 1 in the Jamboard. I can show that to you as well if you'd
Actually,
like
we
to see
added
it.
frame 1 and 2 because we just
Okay.
thought there might not be space. So they're the same. Frame 1 and 2 are the same if you run out of.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So go ahead and take a moment to do that real quick. And let me look at the chat real quick. Yes, and so those of you who are going to support breakout rooms in a little bit, we'll give you co-hosting capabilities. A few people have asked about that, so we want to make sure you know that that's going to happen. And if you're having a hard time with the Jamboard, you can also put it in the chat if you'd like. Sometimes when too many people are on the Jamboard, it gets jammed up. Haha, sorry. Some good stuff here, yes. Ooh, they have a lot of money to spend. Is that true? Well, we'll find out. Some are wondering about some success stories. How can I connect more? What programs look like currently in expanded learning? Yep, I'm so happy to have our folks here today to help us with that. Thanks, and Mara's putting some resources in the chat. Thank you. Ooh, real big sticky note there. Let's see. The SELP grant is helping support that. Good. Summer programs. Trained after school staff. Nice. For garden education, yes. I need to talk to you about that because we're working in that space a bit. How are programming funding decisions made? School gardens, yeah, that's awesome. Anything out of the regular classroom? Tremendous amount of funding. Nice. Okay, let's let you maybe take another minute to do that. Yeah, if we're running out of space, we do have frame 2 to help you with that as well. All right, so, and you can continue to add things here because we do want to make sure we're moving into the core piece of what we're doing today. And so I'm going to actually go ahead and pass this along to Amity to share the next part. We also want to make sure we're going to put it in the chat. There are quality standards for expanded learning. We want to give that to you as a resource, but please don't, this is not the time to read through it. And, I mean, we have experts here that can help you with this, but that's just a piece of a resource that you can utilize for later. And so we just wanted to make sure you had that too. So, all right, Amity, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I'm actually stepping in here. We had hoped to have Suzanne Hill here from Expanded Learning in Orange County Department of Ed. And I don't think we've acknowledged we have environmental education community-based partners here today as well. Maybe you mentioned it, Jen, and I missed it. So we're looking at this session really as like, we were laughing, calling it the dating game, but a matchmaking, bringing together the different perspectives and players that can bring their different areas of expertise together to figure out how best to use this opportunity, which is all this funding coming to districts for expanded learning and new programs being created at local education agencies who have never had expanded learning or who are expanding and may not be aware of the opportunity to connect with community-based partners in the environmental education sector and bring in environmental literacy, because I think you all saw from that definition the incredible potential around the intent of expanded learning to be not replicating what's happening in the classroom school day, but to have it be very student centered and bring in community-based partners. It's a match made in heaven. And so we wanted to bring together our county office folks like me and Jen, who don't have expanded learning really a coordinator. And so we need to learn more about it ourselves, along with county office of ed staff who totally have that expertise and are doing the work supporting the LEAs, and community-based partners from across the different regions to share their hopes for how they could connect with districts and try to put us all in the same room. So that's what we're going to do in our breakout rooms. And
So
Suzanne,
Amity, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
So Suzanne is actually here. So
She
just so you
is?
know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So she just wrote in the chat. So if you want to chime in, Suzanne, whenever you want.
Yeah. I was just going to go through them very quickly, Suzanne. But if you want to do it really, what we were going to do is actually share the recording that you made. So this slide presentation was made for Suzanne for the Cali Community-Based Partner Innovation Hub, and really with that audience's in mind. And we just found it was helpful for county office staff who also weren't in that sphere as much to learn. And so we're going to share the recording that Suzanne made in the chat as well, so you can get the full presentation that she did. But we wanted to just run through these like an overview of what is in the recording. Do you want to run through them, Suzanne? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't mind going through it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. All right. So this is just a little bit of an overview around what our new Expanded Learning Opportunities program is allowing for and kind of what is expected. So again, it's in Ed Code, it's legislatively driven. And it came out originally out of AB 130, later amended by AB 181, and then continues to be amended through other assembly bills as well. But generally, the overall expectation and intention is that all LEAs who serve TK to 6th grade students will offer all unduplicated students in classroom-based instruction access to a comprehensive expanded learning program and opportunity. So that could include both school day and intersession or non-school days. And so the expectation here is that you would provide up to or at least 9 hours of support through the 180 school year days, as well as the 30 non-school days. And so those could happen throughout the summer. It can happen anytime really that school is closed. So it could be winter camps, summer camps, it could be spring breaks, anything like that. And then each LEA will have to write a program plan that are connected to those quality standards that were alluded to earlier. And then every LEA has to get it approved by their governing board and posted to their website. And then the funding, just so you know, is not a grant, but it is coming to each LEA as through their principal apportionments, and is based on the amount of unduplicated students that the LEA has. This funding is also ongoing. And so some of the things that we had talked about in this recording too, that you can go ahead and look at, is like different ways that maybe groups would want to get involved, or different ways that community-based partners could be involved, different ways that districts and LEAs might really need some support. So there's these 3 different ways that I had come up with just in originally kind of putting this together, is like those one-off experiences. So if you have a community-based program that really likes to do like bigger like assemblies or field trips, like this is a great way to be able to provide that kind of access to programs. There also might be some who are really engaged and interested in doing more like hands-on things with students that would last a little bit longer. So really around like those short-term experiences, you could be able to work with small groups. So for example, one of the things that I know, like in Orange County, we have is like a zero waste program that exists. And so I know others would have that too, right? Like, what are the kind of things that you are already doing that you could put together as like an ongoing experience for students? And we can go to the next slide, Amity. And then a few other things to consider are like knowing that your learning space is going to vary from LEA to LEA, and that you're never going to, you know, there's nothing that says in ed code that they have to have classroom space or they have to have, you know, outdoor space or any of that. It's really going to be dependent on the LEA and the school site as to what the type of learning spaces are available. And so really being able to be flexible around the environment that you would be using. Just so you know, there is ratios that are listed here for like staff to students. So if you're thinking about coming in and really providing like hands-on experiences and providing the staffing to do this, just keep in mind how much staff that would need. As you were thinking about like creating contracts or whatnot, like what is your true capacity? You would have to look at it from this lens around what the instructional pieces are there. And if you are going to bring in staff to really support these programs and you want to be included in ratio, which is really where your programs are going to want to really have, right, is to be able to bring in these additional staff, is that you would have to meet the basic instructional assistant requirements for the individual LEA. And so you could talk through what that would look like with them. And then this is, again, some other things to consider, like where are your current partnerships already? What do you already have in existence that you can maybe enhance or add to? Where are those opportunities that you could create, like those win-win scenarios, something that you already have that you really want to get out there and that will be able to meet the needs for the programs and the communities that you are serving. And then be able to put together a plan and proposal, and be able to, you know, think about like what is realistic for you and your program. And yeah, that's, I think that was it. Mara had already put this in the chat box as well, but this is where all of our 16 county offices exist that really support the system of support for expanded learning, and the contact list again is already in there.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah,
That
you're
was
welcome.
great. That's amazing. So it's great to have you here too. And so we just wanted to have that like shared basic overview because we're bringing together quite a few different constituents, and also having that video and slide deck can really, I feel like, be a support to a county office that has community-based partners asking how can they get involved in expanded learning, like what is this basic information that they need. Like you can take this information that's been put together and share it with your community-based partner networks, or with community-based partners who approach your county office of ed looking for advice. And it positions you well to know too, like what you could what conversations you could have with your districts to encourage them. And so
Amity, Diana has a hand up. Do you want to answer her question real quick? Or
sure, let's hear what the question is.
Well, that was, I guess you answered it in a way. So for those of us who are not part of county office education, and we're trying to figure out how to work with this program, because a lot of the things that are mentioned, we've been doing at our agency for 30 years, providing funding for school gardens and working with bringing in classrooms. So are you suggesting then that we would go to our local contacts for our county offices of education and develop a plan with them? Or is there a framework for a plan, or are they developing the plan?
the districts, the local education agencies develop the plans, not the
Okay.
county office of education. So that's something to know. And I think the county office can help maybe be a connector between community-based partners and these local education agencies, typically school districts or charters, to help make those introductions so that you could potentially end up in an LEA plan.
I see.
The
Okay.
advice in Suzanne's slides about what you might want to think about in terms of preparing to like have the capacity to be a part of the plan. That's why we're sharing these details, to be helpful for the community-based partners to realize, okay, I'm going to have to think about ratio, or the types of programs I offer could fall into these
Right.
different categories, just so everybody's kind of got some of the same basic information. And now we're going to go into breakout rooms to be able to talk through more of the details of how can we make these connections and get the districts to consider creating new partnerships with environmental education groups to infuse environmental literacy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we
And then-
have, oh, go ahead.
I was just sorry, I'm going to say, and Benjamin just posed a question too that some of our experts that are here could probably help answer. So when we go into our breakout rooms, it's the question of when do the ELOP funds need to be spent? And someone answered it. See, look at that. I'm so glad we
Yes.
have our experts here today.
Yes. And then we also heard from Suzanne that this is ongoing funding too. So it's like, that's this plan, but there'll be new plans in the future. And these folks that are going to each be in different breakout rooms today are each taking part in Callie's fellowship for environmental literacy for county offices of education. Malia Meyer, who's a Region 1 lead for expanded learning, based at Mendocino County Office of Ed. Gloria Halley and Jeff Salberg, who are Region 2 leads and based at Butte County. And Mara Wold and Letty Gomez Gong, who are the Region 5 leads for expanded learning and the STEAM hubs. These are all STEAM hub people, and based at Monterey County Office of Education. And because they are in this fellowship program, they've been thinking a lot about the environmental literacy integration. So we wanted to put them into different breakout rooms and give people a chance to talk with them. And then Orange County is here too, for the South. And then we also have regional leads from other hubs that you saw in that map who signed up to participate after hearing that this was the topic. They weren't asked specifically to bring environmental literacy information with them, but we'll have you all in your regional groups so you can connect. Like there's the LA, I know LACO is here as well, and others. But our goal with these breakout rooms is really to, as I said, bring together these different perspectives and expertise from the different stakeholder groups to really think about how we can take advantage of this opportunity, and to in our COE community of practice, learn more about how any COE, even one that's not focused, doesn't have a hub, isn't a hub lead for expanded learning, can support bringing environmental literacy into expanded learning programs for their LEAs, and discuss opportunities to connect expanded learning and environmental literacy in your regions, and consider about how community-based partners and COEs can work more together around this issue. What can COEs do to support community-based partners, and what are community-based partners able to bring that's unique? And let me go to the next slide. So how we're going to do this, we were going to do our Creek North, Creek Central, and Creek South mega regions, which are these, you can see all of the counties that are in each of those Creek mega regions. But because we have two fellows, Creek North has a really large number of counties and the largest number of registrants today in today's session. And we have two fellowship groups from that region. We're going to make two breakout rooms for Creek North, and one breakout room for Creek Central, and one breakout room for Creek South. So you can see if you're not sure, those mega regions are kind of unusual because they're bringing together a whole bunch of CSESA regions. And so find your county and see where you'd be at. And for Creek North, just go with like who you work with more, because that's what this is about, is building on your relationships and expanding your connections. And what we'll do is, and these times are really flexible, but just spend a little bit of the time at the beginning letting the expanded learning expertise folks in the room share any work in their region that they are aware of that is already connecting expanded learning and environmental literacy. Share from their point of view opportunities for COEs to support environmental literacy integration. So what can the COE folks do? And any advice from their point of view for community-based partner organizations. So just like a brief overview of those from the perspective of somebody who's really understands the expanded learning system. And then try and open it up to have more questions and group discussion around those same topics. And I'd say after that introductory bit, you know, if people are feeling like you want to peel off into smaller regional groups, there will be extra rooms because you're going to select your room. So you can use the chat and decide like, okay, you know, we have a bunch of LA folks. We're ready to like move into another room and talk. And that's fine. You can just move yourselves. Does that all make sense? Any questions? Amy, the real Amy Frame, of course, named the rooms after favorite California trees. Love it. Okay, I think we're ready to go. And we'll do a little processing whole group after this.
And before we go, could you just please make us co-hosts so that we're able to share our screen? That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, let's make sure you're all co-hosts.
And yep, it's working now. Thank you.
Great. All right, and those rooms are open.
And if you're not
If having
necessarily a
trouble joining, we can put you in. Just tell us which one.
yeah, and I was going to say, if you're not necessarily a co-host, I did change it so all participants can share screen. So
yeah.
that might be, because I was
Good
trying to make other people co-host and it wasn't working. So
yeah, that's a great idea. Oops, that's stop sharing. Amy, should we pause the recording? We're all back. All right. I hope you all had some great discussions in those breakout rooms. We're just going to take a moment for individual reflection and go back to our Jamboard. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we'll put the Jamboard link in the chat again too. But just to give you a chance to think about what were the nuggets that stood out from that conversation. Oh, actually, I'm going to go away from this and over to the Jamboard. Anything new that you learned that you might be able to leverage at your community, your organization, or at your COE regarding expanded learning, and what questions do you have now after that conversation? So there are two frames for this, both the same in case people are running out of room. Let's just take a couple minutes to go ahead and capture that, and then we'll have a whole group discussion in a minute. Well, a little more than a minute, give you a couple minutes to add to this. Did it get put in the chat again?
yes, it's in the chat.
Great, thanks. I don't have that open.
Mm.
All right, I'm going to pass it over to Amy to lead a little whole group processing here.
Well, there's so much to work with here. And I don't want to be redundant with things that are on the Jamboard, but I do want to open it up at first just to any big ahas or takeaways or learnings that you've had from the past hour or so that you didn't walk into this meeting with. So if you just want to unmute and go ahead and share what you're thinking, that would be great.
I'll share that I got very excited in my room before I had to come back, just hearing about the professional learning that is delivered by the STEAM hub for expanded learning, and how they find it is more effective if they can get the core day teacher working together with their expanded learning staff, learning alongside them. And so then we were bringing in the idea of bringing in the community-based partner educators alongside them. So having all three in the same room learning together about what the expanded learning programs can look like, and then building the relationships to have the community-based partners bring their expertise into that as well. Got very excited.
And I was in that same room. This is Estrella. I was really excited about the model that Region 5 had for their intake form, getting information from community-based organizations. There's a lot on the portal that Amy put in the chat that I think is really helpful. And I think this was another kind of component to a toolkit for connecting community-based organizations who have a lot of this expertise, with their LEAs that in some cases, at least I'm hearing in some of my conversations, is a piece that's missing, where LEAs are sometimes unsure of who is out there in their region and who to connect to, and community-based organizations are saying, we have all these great resources and programs. How do we access these funds? And so I think that's another matchmaking tool that I was really impressed with in Region 5, and would love to see that replicated in other parts of the state.
Yeah, I don't think community-based organizations are aware of how much funds or opportunities there are within the school districts. So I think that's something that we would want to make available, and allow people to be aware of that, because it's so important. And they, like Estrella said, they have so much to offer, and they need the money.
I could say I joined the North group, which is one of the North groups, which was the smaller group, and I heard a lot about we do need funding, but we need people. So staffing is an issue for sure, and that came up on the Jamboard too. And I think I loved what Gloria said, is just thinking outside the box a lot of times. So one of the things that I know our area is struggling with even during the day is transportation. And so she was saying how some of their expanded learning folks are applying and getting transportation. So I'm like, ooh, okay, tell me more. So just thinking outside the box and how to use the funding. And then also I loved the idea of the forest therapy that was mentioned as well, and just training everyone about, because that was my question, is how much of what's happening with expanded learning is helping support that outdoor learning, and how bringing kids outside and how they can support kids with that and that professional learning. So yeah.
In my mind, I'm sort of thinking of this in steps and stages, and one is just awareness of who's out there, and that's sort of the intention of the portal, the Cali Partner portal that's in the chat there. So the idea is that if you're a community-based partner, you can get yourself on there, and people can look for you in a certain region and find you. And so that's free for everyone at this point. But it came up in our room, in the South room, that there really need to be mechanisms for building these relationships and doing that matchmaking. So I know down In Region 10, they have a group of district science leaders that meets quarterly, and, you know, community-based partner organizations have been involved and hosting and invited, but even that isn't necessarily enough to get the district decision makers to choose to work with those partners. So I'm wondering what other ideas folks have about sort of strengthening that pathway from awareness of each other's existence to like stronger working relationships.
Well, I'm thinking almost like a little webinar like this or session for community-based partner hub to really focus on, like, I learned a lot today and I'm sort of in the loop a little bit. And I wasn't quite aware of the level. So there aren't a lot of community-based partners here takes. It's, you know, mostly county office folks, but sort of replicating this with the angle of really, you know, for them, because there's that hub. Estrella, you head up that, you lead at that hub, right? The Kelly community-based partner hub. Do you think that would be something that, I mean, the partners would be really, because, you know, they're busy and it might be on their radar, but they might not quite be aware, like, okay, I need to make that real connection of what's going on with expanded learning and how, you know, how can we serve? So sometimes you just need that exposure multiple times, and the money's out there and the need is there. Seems like a session on that would be really helpful.
And similar to that, but with a different audience, somebody wrote expanded learning leads should be a part of this conversation. And we have some of them here. I'm curious who put that up there. Like, what information do you think needs to be put into the hands of all the expanded learning leads in the state? Is it that partner portal info? Is it, you know, models that are working? How would bringing them in be most effective?
Hi there. I didn't put that in the portal, but I do lead the Humboldt County expanded learning. And something that would be helpful is just seeing models that have worked in other districts. We have monthly professional developments for our expanded learning coordinators from all the school sites. And I can definitely say that if we see something that has been successful that we can duplicate, it is far more likely to happen.
So I think one way that regional leads can and do play a role in those connections is by organizing site visits. Say, you know, we know often both the community partners and the LEAs. And so the regional leads can be great resources to build those connections, as well as other people in the county office environment. And I think as regional leads, we can connect within our county office environment to build those connections. And then externally, you know, if you're curious, that can be a good place to start. Or a good place to start is also, where are you locally and what are the needs like right in front of you, and where is someone providing that service, and go look and see what it is and ask questions. And then eventually that partnership can develop. Some ways in our region that we've helped facilitate that initial meetup is through a similar form, kind of like Mara's. But we also had to do kind of an information campaign just about what is expanded learning, what is the ELOP program. You're hearing a lot of stuff because there's a lot of people that follow education legislation in our region. And then one of our county offices actually had like a little wine and cheese meet and greet, and the community foundation funded it, which is why they could pay for, and it's in Sonoma County. So we have a lot of wine donors in education, right? So you might not be able to do that everywhere, but it's California. There are a lot of vineyards everywhere. And you'd be surprised, you know, industry wants to be a part of helping schools. And when you attach environmental literacy and sustainability to it, you also can get in that like ag rural piece of the wine industry. So if you need the wine money, I'm just saying. But that was not only, it was like a gift for our CBOs, and our principals got to go to an event where they were just relaxing and talking to each other. And whereas these kind of workshops are helpful, I think, and we do those as well. This was like a relaxing kind of event. It was meant to be just a gift and a space for them. And partnerships did emerge from that. The complexities of those partnerships have continued to emerge in the coming months. And that's where the real work is. But sometimes just that initial igniting of the relationship, but then really acknowledging and being open to supporting that ongoing continuous work that follows.
Well, yeah, I'm curious where that event was held. Was there like a winery that donated space, or how did that work?
Yeah, I believe it was at it was not at the county office or a school site
Right.
or a school site, of course. Yeah, so it was at a winery just out of Santa Rosa. So it was also, pretty accessible, a wide open space. So yeah, I mean, definitely a unique to Sonoma County kind of examples, but you have your local examples, I'm sure, and things that you can do too.
I have always said that the educators that drink together close the opportunity gap together. Prove me wrong, Well, thank you for all of these wonderful ideas. And I know this group will be going back to take a close look at that Jamboard and thinking about next steps. And if, wine and cheese is the solution to this problem, I mean, we really may be onto something here. So thank you guys. I think Jen is going to finish us out here.
So we only have a few minutes left. So in closing, we want to make sure, I think we started this last meeting, but if you haven't had a chance to showcase your COE, some of your, what are your successes in your county office and what are some challenges that are happening, and maybe it's, kind of connected to our topic for today or the topics throughout the year. So just make sure you're sharing that. And then we will kind of go back and visit that next time we meet. We also wanted to share this document with you that just came out from Cali, and a lot of us helped work on this. And there is as you know, there's a block grant coming out that's it's more focused on the arts and music, but there is a little line in there that talks about environmental literacy. So it's from AB 185, and we want to give you a tool for thinking about how you can advocate for funding to spend on environmental literacy efforts. So this document is now in the chat, and if you want to stay on and talk through the document a little bit more after this meeting, we can stay on for a little bit and chat with you. But it's just just hot off the press, I guess, right now, and it's on our website. And like I said, a few of us helped write this document. So the RFA is not out yet, but just so you know, it's coming, so you're kind of prepared for it. So next slide, please. And then, of course, please, if you are still on the Jamboard, or please go back to the Jamboard, give us some feedback for today. What were some gots that you got from today, and some needs you need for next time. Our next meeting actually will be focused on youth connection. So if you go to the next slide, and the Jamboard needs to go back in the chat, that would be great. But we are going to talk about youth engagement in February. Gosh, we're not going to meet again until February, but please let us know if you have some ideas or thoughts or needs for that meeting. We have some great opportunities to connect with our youth and things that are already happening, and make sure you're registered for that meeting as well. And I think we're on the last slide. Yep, thanks all. And we're all here for you and supporting you. So reach out to us if you need anything. And we loved connecting with you all today. It was really awesome conversations. And we're glad that some folks in our other hubs brought this to the forefront, because we know that the expanded learning funding is coming about. And that's kind of why we pushed today's meeting, because we know that a lot of your districts are thinking about how they're going to be spending their expanded learning funds. And so it's a good time to advocate and support them with that. And I'll leave it at that. If anyone wants to stay on and ask questions or talk about our new document, hot off the presses, let me know. Thanks, everybody.
Great to see you. And if any of you are attending CISC in person and want to try and meet up, COEs, Callie is thinking about hosting a reception. So put in the chat if you're attending CISC in Monterey in February.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.